Welcome! Today's lesson I think is much easier to do just straight from IXL, because what we're going to do now is just kind of introduce you to the characteristics of a quadratic function and its graph. So we're going to be asking just lots of hopefully fairly simple questions. Like for instance, by the way, all quadratics have a U-shaped graph that might be opened up or down. And it's going to ask, hey, what is the y-intercept? Well, remember, y-intercept just means where does the graph cross the y-axis? So we look at this vertical y-axis, we follow the curve around until we find where it crosses the y-axis, which is at a y value of 2. So it crosses the y-axis at 2. Again, they're going to ask, what is the coordinate of the vertex? Now, the vertex, what that means, the vertex of any quadratic is the lowest or highest point. It's where the bottom of the U or top of the mountain or hill if it's upside down quadratic. So the very lowest point or right at that bottom point is going to be 0, 1. And that they usually want that as a coordinate. So the x value is 0, the y value is 1. Then again, what is the y-intercept? Okay, where does it cross the y-axis? Well, right up here at 9. I really wish they asked this as a point because it crosses the y-axis at 0, 9, but they just want the y value. Okay, what is the coordinate of the vertex? Again, the vertex is right at the origin, right where the x and y-axis intersect, which obviously its x value then is 0 and its y value then is 0. So remember, vertex is the very lowest or highest point. That's the very highest point of that quadratic. It says, what is the equation of the axis of symmetry? Now, the axis of symmetry is a vertical line that always goes through the vertex. In other words, I could technically flip this parabola, and they're called parabolas, this quadratic, across this diagonal line that comes straight down like this. It's hard to see, but across this line, and you'd never know it. You know, flip a U, just flip it from right to left or left to right, and it looks exactly the same. That's the axis of symmetry. Now it says, what is the equation? Make sure you put the equation. Now, what's the equation of a vertical line? Well, it's going through the x-axis, so it's going to have x equals. If it's vertical, it actually uses x. And it's all because that x value is always whatever the x value is of the vertex, which is -4. So it'd be x equals -4. What is the minimum value of this function? When they're talking about minimum values, again, they're just talking about the very lowest point, which, again, the minimum value is always going to be the vertex, or the maximum value, if it's opened down, would be the vertex as well. This parabola, if it's opened up, never has a maximum, but it does have a minimum. And when it asks for the value of the minimum, they're asking for the output. What is the output? What is the y value at this point right here? Well, the y value is -3. Here, what is the maximum? Again, I already talked about maximum. As long as it's open down, it has a maximum. It doesn't have a minimum, but it does have a maximum. And again, when they're asking for what's the maximum value of the function, that's the outcome. Maximum value of a function is the output. It's the y value right here. So the output for that point or that vertex is 0. What is the equation of axis of symmetry? Again, the axis of symmetry is a vertical line that goes right through the vertex. Again, I could flip this over and you wouldn't even be able to tell that I flipped it if I flip it vertically across the y-axis, not vertically, I guess, horizontally across the y-axis. Again, you got to make sure you're careful how you word that. So again, but the axis of symmetry is the y-axis. So it's going to be not y, but x equals 0 because it's always has an x value of 0. What is the equation of the axis of symmetry? Again, even though it's up higher and it's open down, doesn't matter. The axis of symmetry is this vertical line that goes right through the vertex, and that vertical line is x equals 0 again. What is the minimum value? Again, it's the very lowest point, and we're only asking for the outcome, or the output, or the y value, so it's 0. What is the y-intercept? where we're crossing the y-axis. It's right here at -2. Again, they're just looking for the y value on that one. What are the coordinates of the vertex? Again, the vertex is over here now, that very lowest point. It's at -2x and -3y. So -2, -3. And what is the y-intercept? Again, now it's up. What is the y-intercept? Well, yeah, right there at 2, has a y-intercept of 2. What is the coordinate of the vertex? Again, it's right here, this lowest point, which is down 2, but it's not left or right. So its x value is 0. Don't get them confused. Y value is -2. What is the equation of the axis of symmetry? It looks like it's shifted over. We're going to talk a lot about shifting functions, but it's over 1, or this axis of symmetry is x equals -1. It's always x equals. Make sure you do equals -1. It's an equation with an equal sign. Make sure you do the variable x. Look at this graph. What is the coordinate of the vertex? Again, the vertex is down here, has an x value of -4 and a y value of -8. -4, -8. What is the minimum value? It's the very lowest. Again, when they're asking for a minimum value, they're only asking for the y. That's -9. This is the equation of the axis of symmetry. Goes right through the origin. So it's x equals 0, or that vertical line, x equals 0. The y-intercept is just way up here at 9. Y value of 9. And what is the equation of the axis of symmetry? Again, it goes through the origin, or goes through this, actually the vertex point here, that's 0, -5. So x equals 0. If you have any questions or come across something that I didn't talk about, please do ask me in class.